Good morning everyone, it's Coach Christine and welcome to this week's edition of Christine's Kitchen. So one of the things that I love to do is make my breakfast ahead of time. Today we are going to be doing a mini breakfast pie pocket. So we'll be using tofu and soy riso, a handful of grilled mixed vegetables, and then folding it into its own little pie shell, kind of like a giant Pop-Tart, and then baking them in the oven. So stick with me, I'll show you step by step. First things first, let's prep our crust for this. Here we go. So the first thing we want to do with our crust is take your regular store-bought pie crust. This is all about being easy and convenient. If you want to make your own from scratch, by all means, have at it, I'm not going to stop you. But today we're using store-bought. So you're going to take it, lay it out on your cutting board, and just gently expand it and roll it with your roller here. We're going to then take a pizza cutter to this. Once we've leveled it out and flattened it just a smidgen more. There we go. Take your pizza cutter, cut it in half right down the center, and then we're gonna cut this into 4 strips. That way we have a top and bottom for each of our mini pies. Perfect. After that, you're just going to take these. Each strip will look about like this. Take them, set them aside, and we'll come back to them when we're ready. So we have the crust set aside. Let's start to work on the filling. What I've done is taking 2 Roma tomatoes and 2 fresh jalapenos, chop them up. We are gonna put this over a medium heat with a single tablespoon of olive oil into our skillet to start to cook this. So I added a little bit of spicy chilies to my olive oil so it's infused with a little bit of heat. We'll take this, start to roast the veggies in here. And while those are going, we need to prep our tofu. So for the tofu, to make it more of an egg-like texture, I've taken a single packet, usually it's about 5 ounces or so, of extra firm tofu. To that, we are going to add some seasoning. So we'll add nutritional yeast, which is gonna give it a nice cheesy flavor. We're adding turmeric, which is going to pack it full of antioxidants as well as give it the yellow coloring. We are also adding a little bit of cumin and a little bit of crushed red chili flakes. So what you do with the tofu is take your fork and literally smush it down so that you're creating this kind of texture like you would of a scrambled egg. Instead of whipping it, you're just going to smush it. From there, take your seasonings, mix it into it, and that way we basically just prep the tofu. It's very easy, and I find that it's easier to just take 30 seconds and do this in a bowl before you put it into the pan so that all of these flavors will meld together, and it also makes it the texture breaking down easier for cooking. So this is how I basically will make my scramble. Now with these, if you don't want to do it as a breakfast pie pocket, you could do this as a regular tofu veggie scramble and have all of the amazing benefits just the same without any of the carbs. So we've got that ready. We're just going to set that aside. To the vegetables, we want to add soy riso because we want to spice this up and add a little bit of meat. So I've taken my soy riso container here. We're going to squeeze it right into the pan and let all of this cook together. This is going to be a half of one of the full tubes. If you are reading the portion sizes on the soy riso packet, you'll be looking at 3 servings of soy riso. So you've got that set aside. Take your spatula, just begin to mix it up. And then from there, it's safe to go ahead and add our tofu in. So basically what we're gonna do is take it here, pour all of this in, mix it up like so, and we're gonna cook this over a medium heat. We've got it all mixed. This is gonna have some beautiful coloring, looking like the world's greatest breakfast scramble. And depending on how many pies you want to make, we'll be making 4 smaller ones today, but this will make probably enough to fill 8. So we'll have a little bit of a scramble left over on the side that I can either toss into a tortilla for a breakfast burrito one morning or just have it a scramble on its own. This is a great make-ahead breakfast. So this is how it's going to look. And then we'll go ahead and add that over the heat and cook this. Honestly, you'll probably be simmering that over the heat for about 10 minutes or so before we take the next step, so stick with me. So we've been cooking the tofu and veggies for about 10 minutes now. The last step that we want to do is add in about 2 cups of spinach and a 1/4 cup of loosely packed cilantro, just to saute at the very end here. So we're just going to take our 2 cups, toss it in, add in our loosely packed cilantro, and we're going to let all of this cook together for about another 2 to 3 minutes. It will basically wilt and shrink up that spinach. We're going to take it from there and begin to stuff our breakfast pocket pies. So here we go. Okay, let's get this stuff started. So here is what your finished scramble looks like. Absolutely amazing. I'm very excited to eat this. It smells outstanding. A little sad I already ate breakfast today, but excited that this will be my breakfast for the rest of the week. So what we're going to do basically is we'll start with one of our little pockets here, and we're going to take a spoonful of our mixture and scoop it on. Basically, we're just gonna fill the one little side here. Then you're gonna take the second piece, place it on top, and smush it around. We wanna create a little pie crust finish, so roll the edges to pinch them together. Make sure all of your insides stay inside. The beauty of the dough being raw is if you get a little crack, you just smush it back together. Coming over here, doing the same side, pinching the edges, making sure all of that filling stays inside. And you can take a little bit of a fork and just pinch it down, creating kind of like a Pop-Tart or pie crust edge on here. Once you get all of the corners in, we are going to transfer this onto a baking sheet. Got a little bit of edge going rogue here, so we're just going to smush it back in. Now, what I've done is for easy cleanup and to make this so that it cooks equally, I've taken foil, lined my pan, and then I took my cooling rack and I basically just placed it right on top here. And this is going to give the same effect as if you were air frying it. So if you don't have an air fryer at home, just create your own here. We will take each of our little pie pockets and place them directly onto, let's get this one up. We'll take them all and place them onto the sheet. And then from there, we'll be drizzling some butter and baking. So we'll get them all put together and then we'll get them into the oven. Stick with me, I'll show you how to do this step by step. So quick little note, while you are making these, the pie crust itself is very, very thin and flimsy. So you may wanna double up for the base layer, just because when you go to pick it up, it will start to fall apart, as I just learned. But, so I redid them, I doubled them. This is what they look like on the pan. Our little pie pockets are ready to go in. We have a lot of extra filling, so we're going to also make a couple of breakfast burritos at the same time here. So we'll just continue to fill this, roll it, and we're gonna bake them and do the exact same topping as we will for the pies. With tortillas, you wanna make sure you don't overfill them because you do wanna have the ability to roll these. Tiny bit more here, there we go. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. So the best way I found to fold one of these is bring all of your goods back to the back end of it, fold it in half, and now tuck it into itself and continue to just squeeze the filling with each little roll, squeeze and roll. And that way your sides will stay tucked in. And you've got a nice little burrito. So we'll add this to our pan. We're gonna do the same thing on here. Bring your filling back to the end of it here. Tuck the edges, fold it over, continue to push the filling back in as you roll it. Squeezing it all the way through, making sure those sides stay tucked in. Just like so. We'll toss it onto here. And the last step of this before we get it into the oven is to take a little brush with butter, and you're just gonna base it onto the top of these. This is gonna help crisp up the edges. We'll do it the same thing on the top of the breakfast burritos. We're gonna put these into the oven for about 20 minutes to bake, and this is going to be at 375. So there you have it. We'll get our breakfast beauties into the oven. We've got a ton of variation now, a little bit of a regular scramble, 2 burritos, and 2.5 little breakfast pocket pies. So there'll be a lot of variety this week, even though the fillings are the same. We'll see you in about 20 minutes when this comes out of the oven. Here they are. They look amazing. Okay, well, the burritos look amazing. My pies, they look very homemade and amateur, but you know what? This is real TV, and that's what happens when it's an experiment as you go. Not everything comes out the most beautiful presentation, but I can assure you they look outstanding. So we're gonna let these cool. Just bring them to, give them maybe 5 minutes just to let the heat kind of rest before you touch the pan. You'll be able to take a spatula, take them off, put it on the plate, and have breakfast ready to go. As I said, we're making these ahead of time, so I've taken my Tupperware. Because the heat and the moisture can easily kind of make them soggy, what you'll do is take a piece of paper towel, put it under your wax paper, your parchment, to line your Tupperware, and that way as you put it in, it will help absorb any of that moisture. You can also put a paper towel or a regular dish towel on top, and that will keep these perfect for reheating. You can also wrap them in foil, toss them in the freezer, and then defrost them and put them in the microwave. So you'll be good to go. So grab your breakfast, grab your coffee, and bon appetit. All right, my friends, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, lots of variation, so play around with it. If you want them to look really pretty, I can tell you the tip is to use puff pastry. It's a little bit more malleable. It will fold easier, and you can get those perfect little pie crust edges like a gigantic Pop-Tart. So, pie crust, tortillas, puff pastry, or just having it on its own. Lots of ways to enjoy this amazing tofu scramble, and I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next week from my kitchen to yours. Have a great one.